Michigan traveled to Indiana and I guess made it a one possession game. But like, did you ever really feel like Indiana was going to lose control of that game?
No. And part of that was my trust in Indiana, which is crazy, and Curtis
Yeah,
Rourke and that staff. But part of it too was just Michigan. There's a certain threshold. If you're up 2 touchdowns on them, like say, we saw that same thing with the Illinois game a couple weeks ago. I guess a month ago by now. They just don't have the weapons and the ability to come back in that game. And Indiana did a great job in stopping the run, right, and controlling, you know, the game and the momentum early on, and really be able to kind of flex their muscles and get a win. And that's all they needed to do today. I don't care the style points. I don't care what happened this game. To me, I saw enough to be like, yeah, this is still the same Indiana team that's been pummeling a lot of other teams in the Big Ten. You get to a bye, we get healthy, and then you see what happens with Ohio State. I'm not worried. I mean, I know the score didn't look great. I know whatever, yada, yada. Worked through a pick. It wasn't super efficient. You ran the ball for not very effectiveness. But this is also Michigan's front seven. It's really good. And that team is still very talented defensively. So, yeah, I think Indiana, I give them credit for winning a football game. That's what I'll say.
yeah. I still think they have a chance to beat Ohio State. Which I don't know if that's like it's not a bandwagony thing to say. It's my eyeballs are telling me that Indiana is a really good football team, and I know that the quality of opponent people want to say isn't necessarily there, but it's also how you win too. And I know you talked about the style points not really mattering in this game, and I agree with that. This Michigan football team is probably a lot more quote unquote talented than Indiana in terms of like the construction of their roster. But Indiana, week after week, I mean, you pound Michigan State, you pound Washington, you pound Nebraska, you pound Northwestern, you pound Maryland, Charlotte, UCLA, like everyone. They've just pounded. Now you get to this point right here, and are people ready to jump off the boat just because they had, a 5-point win against a Michigan team that does have talent and is pretty physical? I don't think people should be jumping off the boat quite yet.
I think if we're giving Texas all this credit for dominating Michigan, right, I think we should give Indiana some credit for beating Michigan, right? Michigan's still probably going to a bowl game. They've had a really tough schedule, by the way, too. They lost a couple games on the road. Washington, Illinois, and Indiana. And other than that, Oregon and Texas are their other losses. So I don't know. I still feel pretty good here. The only concerning thing is you didn't get any sacks against Indiana or against Michigan, and they had 4 against you. I know Michigan likes to get the ball out early. I know they did a couple things doing that, but in 32 attempts here, I know you obviously affected him enough to where he was a 50% completion guy, but to me, if you want to get to Will Howard, you want to stop Ohio State a couple weeks, that offensive line, you have to exploit it. You have to, which I think, use your advantage of your D line and your front seven and really affect Ohio State and their rhythm and timing. And they did it early for Michigan, obviously, but that's the one thing, if I do have to be honest, and like we are here, a little bit concerning, I guess I'll say.
I, I might disagree with you just a little bit. I do agree with you that they have to get pressure on Ohio State, but I think, from their players, 25 total pressures, still pretty solid. Now, some of those are same player getting them on the same play, right?
Yeah.
But 25 total pressures in a game where Davis Warren dropped back, like 34 times, 35 times? Uh, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. But
I know getting home, right? You have to get
yes.
home in order to beat Ohio State.
And Will Howard is a lot more mobile than Davis Warren. I mean, we saw
Oh,
Lenore
absolutely.
Sellers. He got pressured a bunch against A&M. We've seen Milroe get pressured a bunch. And like these quarterbacks here are so athletic, so hard to bring down. Is those extending plays? That's where you can really get caught. And I know they've been good all season. And then just if I want to be nitpicky in Indiana, that's what I'll say. But I like you said, yeah, the pressure rates very high and that translates to throughout the season. But in terms of like getting home, that's also I think a little bit different, I guess.